Good morning, Christian.
Morning, Scott. How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good.
We just haven't seen you for a while, so I wonder if you could update us on how you're doing and what your mindset is right now.
Yeah, I'm doing well. You know, this has been a tough year, I think, for everybody. Tough last couple years for me personally, but I'm recovering really well. Obviously, this is like I said, it's been frustrating, but I'm in a good spot mentally and emotionally of understanding that this thing's a marathon, and I feel great, and I'm excited for next year already. You know what I mean? And so I've learned really to treat all of this adversity and all the different things in the air going on just as a blessing. And I can honestly say I'm very proud of the person that I am, and who I've become, and what I've been able to learn over the last 2 years and dealing with these different injuries and the mental part of it, the emotional part of it, and just excited to keep going and get after it next year.
Thank you.
All right, let's go to Darren Gant, followed by Wolf Logic.
Christian, because of the way the last 2 years have gone, have you thought about changing any of the particulars of the way you go about getting ready for a season, or has it given you second thoughts about kind of your approach to all this?
I think one of the things that happens when you get hurt is you overthink things, and I think about that every year, like what do I do differently? What can I do differently? What's the next best thing? Reaching out to a whole lot of different people, trying to figure out the answers. And, I think there's a lot of planning that goes behind it. There's a lot of different things I can do. I can tell you one thing. I can honestly look at myself and know that I tried everything. I've done everything, and I will continue to try to do everything. And so, whether I second guess myself, I've never second guessed myself. I've always felt great going into a football game. I've never felt like, oh, I don't feel right or this or that. Sometimes you just go through things. Sometimes you got bad years, sometimes you have bad games, and sometimes you have good ones. And like I said, if you focus on the 60-meter sprint, it's going to be a long career, and not in a good way. But if you focus on the marathon, it's going to be a healthy, happy, long career. And that's really what I'm focused on, is continuing to learn, continuing to grow, trusting in myself and my own abilities. And I think if I've learned anything as far as techniques, I think it's been, just not overdoing it. I think that's been my issue is overdoing it sometimes. But once again, there's different things that I've learned along the way that I think will help. And you can't prevent everything. Football's a tough business. It's a tough sport. But I'll continue to learn and grow.
Do you think there have been times in the last couple of years when you've kind of cost yourself time by pushing a little too hard?
I don't necessarily think so. I think one of the things that talking with different guys around the league who have had success is, in these first 12 weeks of the off season, just letting yourself emotionally, mentally, and physically relax, still being active, but relax in that. And, I've had a lot of carryover and change in my career. And so I'm a competitor, and I always want to show up ready to go for OTAs. And so I think I've, trained for OTAs, if that makes sense, and trying to show up at full speed, ready to roll. And I'll still, do that, but it would be more tempered, so to say. I think the word would be, and showing up fluid, smooth, ready to go, but just taking care of yourself. But like I said, I've trained a certain way for a long time, and I've had a lot of success doing it. And I think if you relate what you do, in training to, I had a couple 300-pound guys fall on my ankle when I was already down. I didn't mean for that to happen. I would love to know if there's a drill that someone's got out there to prevent that from happening. I'll do it every day. But, like I said, it's continuing and trusting in myself, trusting in my abilities and in my training, and which I do. And, I've seen guys get hurt. It's part of the business. But I'm content knowing that, I have the capabilities to continue to have success.
Christian, hope you're doing well. How do you reconcile the, I guess, series of unfortunate consequences with your injuries and reconcile that with the thought that a lot of people conventionally have when it comes to running backs, in that basically the shelf life is so small and guys kind of break down once they get down to the late 20s and mid 30s?
Well, if that's the case, I got a few more years left. I'm 25 and still feel great. I'm young, I'm healthy. Like I said, I've never gone into a game feeling bad, and honestly, man, that stuff's for the birds. That's for Twitter, that's for social media to talk about, and for the talk show hosts to talk about. And I don't pay attention to that stuff. I just continue to put a smile on my face, man, and keep working as hard as I absolutely can to be the best player I can for my team.
What do you think should be the focus of this team's next offensive coordinator?
Man, you know what? I think I'm more concerned about the players and all of us buying into having a sense of accountability and a sense of pride when it comes to whoever it is, trusting in it, and once again, just individually making commitments to be the best players we can be.
Thanks, man. Good luck rehab.
Thanks, Will. Appreciate it.
Go to Jonathan Alexander, followed by David Newton.
Hey, Christian. Hope all is well, man.
What's up, Jonathan?
Nothing much. I'm curious as what do you think this offense needs to do to kind of get to where you all want to be? And then I have another question after that.
Well, once again, I'd like to just talk about myself. I got to stay healthy. I got to, personally be there. And I think the best offenses that I've seen, it comes down to just doing your job. You know what I mean? If everyone has one or two my bads, it turns into a lot of my bads during the extent of a game. And so I think it just comes down to everybody doing their job, being accountable, and being in the right place at the right time and being on page. I would love to say that there's some secret and this is what we need, but it really is just do your job.
And I guess does it go through your mind, like when you're out, like the impact it really has on the offense and how much they kind of lean on you? I'm not saying it's your fault at all. Offensive lineman did fall on your foot, but
No.
you think about that?
No, I was more saying like from I think that's the whole point, is that every single person on this offense has to individually ask themselves, what can I do better? What can I do differently? And go from there. And it's really, that's it. It's an individual commitment to a team success. It's the biggest team game in the world. You know what I mean? I can't have success if somebody else doesn't do their job, and quarterback can't have success if I'm dropping the pass. And so it's all collective. It's a collective commitment to success, and in order to do that, each individual has to do their job.
Thank you.
Hey, Christian, good to see you. Matt was saying that he spent like 45 minutes with you before a game here recently talking about the team and where things are. Curious, I've been a lot of speculation about Matt and the job he's done. Can you talk about what you feel like he's done, why he's the guy to lead this team forward, and kind of what that conversation was like for that 45 minutes?
Yeah, well, I think, one thing I've learned is, there's an AC/DC song. It's a long way to the top, if you want to rock and roll. You're going to have to get, sleep in some bad motels. You're going to be driving a bad van, and, you might have some tomatoes thrown at you. You'll be playing in front of 15, 16 people at a bar, half of them booing you, but you need a collective team. You need a drummer, a bassist. You need everybody to buy in. And so, all the stuff in the air about this guy or that guy, I'm going to keep saying the same thing to you guys. It's all about, from me being in the role that I am, about getting myself and everyone else on the team to execute. And at the end of the day, it's about football. It's about what happens on Sunday. How can we execute better? And it hasn't been good enough. from a lot of different standpoints. And so that's really what I'm focused on is how can I as a leader, how can I as a player on this team continue to just chop wood, because eventually, my hopes and my my hopes are that it will, and I believe it will. I truly believe that. I've seen it happen before with other teams, and I know we can do it as well.
I like your choice in old school songs there. I wanted to ask you too, what were your impressions of Sam when he came back from the shoulder these last couple of games, and any progressions you saw from the struggles he was having earlier?
Yeah, I think he showed a lot of courage. I'll tell you that much. I think a lot of the things people don't see, in the NFL is the stuff that the players have to deal with, and that's part of the game. Nobody's ever asked for pity or anything like that, but it's, he showed a lot of toughness and courage, and I've said this to you guys before, but I think the head coach and the quarterback get way too much credit, way too much blame. There's 11 guys on that field as an offense, and everything needs to click in order to have success. And like I said, it's the biggest team game in the world, and so Sam's a guy who every day he's just showed up, gone to work, been poised the whole time, and been a great guy in the locker room as well. So, he's a guy that we all have his back.
I appreciate it. Thanks.
Thanks, David.
We have time for a few more. Let's go to Joe Person and finish up with Scott Fowler.
Morning, Christian. Thanks for doing this.
Yeah. What's up, Joe? How you doing?
I'm doing well, thanks. I wanted to ask you kind of how you're doing. You had mentioned being in a good place now emotionally. Were there some times, this year that you really struggled there, not being in a good place?
Yeah, definitely. I think, everybody goes through their own stuff, and but, like I said, I think turning to God has been the best thing for me. And just being rooted in my faith and understanding that, there's a bigger picture to all this. You know what I mean? And you got to go through some speed bumps in order to continue driving. And sometimes in life, it's not our plan. And as much as I would love to every year have a bunch of success, I think when you go through these things, I'm looking at it as this is the blessing. You know what I mean? When you go through these hard times, when you go through injuries and losses and bad seasons, and people saying this and that about you, that's the blessing. You know what I mean? And that's part of the journey that Joe, I'm sure you've gone through a bunch of stuff in your business where people probably said some terrible things about you, counted you out. Hell, I've tweeted at you, Joe. So I think there's been different things where when we really look at the whole extent of life, and it's all a story, right? And I trust God that the story is gonna end well, and so that's where I'm at. And I think even in the world today, there's a lot of negative, there's a lot of hate and this and that, but it's all part of it. It's all part of a bigger picture, and that's really what I'm focused on is just continuing to chop wood, trust God, and trust myself.
Thanks for sharing that. Just from a football standpoint, Christian, there'd be any? I know we've talked every year with you about number of touches and limited touches. Would there be any benefit to you playing more in the slot, or is that something you've considered or talked about with Matt?
No.
Christian, last thing, you're speaking of sort of some big picture things. So I want to ask you about a big picture thing that popped up with your name. You've been the face of this franchise for a long time, and yet trade rumors sort of encircle you the last couple of off seasons anyway. How do you deal with that? Do you deal with that? And I think I know the answer to this, but do you really want to be here in 2022?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely want to. I think, those things just happen. I honestly, I really don't pay attention to them. I think, like I said, I think all that stuff's for the birds, and I just continue to do everything I can to be the best player I can. In the NFL, it becomes a lot of times about a lot of other stuff other than the football. So for me, it's, how can I maximize my potential and be the best player I can be? And, I'd love to do it here. I love Charlotte. I love the Panthers. And, that's where I'm at.
Thank you.